A wise man once said, "Any good landing is one that you can walk away from. Any great landing is one that you can walk away from and use the airplane again." Today, we're going to talk about what I did for my senior project, a little bit about tailwheel aircraft, some of the training aspects. We'll also look at my endorsement, some of the budget and finances, and last but not least, the research process. As you can see here, there are two different types of aircraft. The one on the right is a tricycle gear, which is most commonly found in general aviation and commercial travel, whereas the one on the left is the tailwheel aircraft. It has two main gears up in front and then a tailwheel in the back, hence the name tailwheel. For my project, I was able to achieve and receive my tailwheel endorsement. The tailwheel airplane is a lot harder to control and fly because you have a wheel so much farther away than you would in a tricycle gear. To be able to control this aircraft, there's a few different types of training that you have to do that goes into it. The first is the ground knowledge. You have to learn the aerodynamics behind it all. It flies a little bit differently, and you have to figure out how the air affects you. The next part is taxiing the airplane. So taxiing is a little bit different. Because your nose is so high up off the ground, you can't always see what's in front of you. What you have to do is you have to kind of slither like a snake and do some S-turns to be able to look out your side window to see what's in front. So you don't hit a kid, a dog, a giraffe, who knows what. Funny story, or great story, however you want to put it. The first time I ever was able to fly one of these aircraft was when we had about 6 to 8 inches of snow. The runway hadn't been plowed, just the taxiway right there in this picture. It was a blast. If you ever have a chance to drift an airplane, highly recommend it. Once you get past that taxiing part and hopefully don't unfortunately accidentally drift the airplane, you'll get into something called a high-speed taxi. That is where you get out onto the runway, you put your power in, and you get ready to take off. But you don't take off, unfortunately. You stay down on the ground. You get going so quickly that your tail is able to come up off the ground just like you're ready to take off, but you just work on the control phase of keeping your aircraft on a straight line. The most dangerous phase of controlling an aircraft is when you're going fast to slow or slow to fast, that medium speed area where you don't have a whole lot of control over your airplane. What can happen is that your tail wheel can break free. It can only turn a certain amount of degrees before it unlocks and starts swiveling, which happens occasionally, just hopefully not to you. Unfortunately, this pilot experienced it. You can think of it almost like a shopping cart. You got two fixed wheels in the front and then two turning in the back. If you push the side that has the turn wheels, it'll just spin around in a circle. Kind of the same thing with the aircraft. If you push it sideways, it'll just want to spin and spin and spin. Might be fun if you're on a merry-go-round, not quite as fun if you're in an airplane. The next phase is taking off. It's a little counterintuitive to what you normally would do. In a regular tricycle gear aircraft, you apply your power and you pull back on your yoke once you get enough speed. With a tailwheel aircraft, you pull back, you apply your power, then you push forward, which you don't always want to do because you don't want to get your prop closer to the ground, but you have to let your tail wheel come up to start creating lift. Once you get that and get up to enough speed, that's when you pull back and can start flying away. There's two different main types of landings for your tailwheel endorsement. There's a three-point landing, which this picture demonstrates perfectly. You come down on all three wheels all at the same time and hopefully come down really nice and smooth. One of the dangers of this landing is if you come down and your tail wheel hits first, it can bounce back up and push your nose to the ground, causing a prop strike. This one is called a wheel landing. And yes, you might be thinking, what else would it be called? A foot landing? No, it's a wheel landing. This wheel landing is where you touch down on your two main tires, and this is somewhat what a high-speed taxi also looks like. You touch down on your main two tires, and then you slowly let your tail wheel come down. This is the hardest because it's really easy to hit the ground and bounce back up if you start descending too quickly. This is my endorsement. Yes, I know it's just words, but words are oh so powerful. What it says that I am certified to fly tailwheel aircraft. And on top of that, because I have my instructor certificate, I'm also able to teach people now how to fly tailwheel aircraft and give them their own endorsement. As you may or may not have known, initially when we started this whole process, I was rooting forward to get my seaplane rating and my tailwheel endorsement. Unfortunately, because of this pandemic, I had to be a little bit flexible with that. The positive side of it is that it didn't break the bank. Initially, when I was budgeting things out, it was looking close to around $4,000. Luckily, I only had to pay $700 in the entirety of it. And that brings us into the research process of how I was able to get such a great deal on it. You have to look at the type of aircraft. The larger the aircraft, the more expensive. The smaller the aircraft, sometimes the harder to fly and the harder to find. What I was able to do is I was able to connect with someone who was coming up from Boise, Idaho, and be able to get my endorsement from him. But you also have to worry about breaking the bank. Sometimes the harder you look and the more you find, the more expensive things get. I had to look over in Portland, Boise, Spokane, Seattle, just about everywhere to try to find someone who would be willing to give me my endorsement. A lot of these places require a lot of extra funds to do so because of the inherent risks that come with flying these tailwheel aircraft. So, one of the greatest things is I was able to do it here in the valley over at Martin Field, which is what, a mile and a half away? It was fantastic instead of having to travel somewhere, pay those fees, and pay for a hotel. And that's what it really comes down to, especially in this aviation industry. Connections matter. Out of everything that I've learned, and out of all the endorsements, all the ratings, all the training that I've done, even the amount of hours, it won't mean anything if you don't make your connections. You need to build those friendships and relationships because those are what really will drive you and take you to flight. In conclusion, one of the biggest aspects of your tailwheel endorsement is being able to take off, taxi, do your 3-point landings, and your wheel landings. These are some of the most difficult things that can get you into a little bit of hot trouble if you end up getting yourself into a ground loop. I'm excited to take any questions and all the questions you might have on Tuesday.